Welcome to Second Listen Saturday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share some fun moments from a past episode for your weekend listening pleasure. Look for new episodes every Monday through Friday.
Well, I guess our what's new with Nicole is really what started our whole topic for today, our moving on out topic.
It is.
So he's moving on out?
He is. Well, he's already moved out, but he's moving out again. So it's kind of a
I did that.
A second level move out. Yeah, and I think I talked about him living away from home a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Some of the risks that his new house posed.
Right.
So he came to his senses and realized that the house was probably not the most conducive to a successful academic school year. So he and his girlfriend decided to go and find an apartment on their own. Now
it's a good news, bad news situation for Nicole.
You just have to trade one set of concerns for another, basically.
It is, exactly. And that's exactly the way it is. When your kids move out, it's never that, relief or that you're still worrying about them and you're still concerned. And so now, of course, I have to quickly switch gears and think of all the advice I can give him about moving out and into an apartment with his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah. And all the advice you need to give her.
Exactly.
Like she needs to work on his table manners with him.
Yes. The expectations you're going to have moving forward.
Right. These are things that you need to continue to guide him with.
Or in other words, your problem now, sweetie.
Yeah, that's right. So, that kind of branched off into our topic today. And, we thought we'd talk about kids moving out and, when that should happen and whether that's even important. Like, do we want or do they need to move out? I don't know what people have varying thoughts on this, I know. So Terry, why don't you get started? Maybe tell us about your own moving out experience first.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I could not wait to move away from home personally. I went away to college, and after a year or two, I stopped coming home in the summer. I had an apartment near campus. And then when I graduated college, I moved to Kansas City, which is halfway across the country from my home. And then I got a little homesick and I went back. I lived at home for a little while, kind of like your son, kind of going in and out. And then I got tired of having the arguments with my mother that I am now having with my daughter. And so I moved out into an apartment in town, and then I moved into the Valley, and then I moved to New Jersey, which is as far away from home as I could get and still be in the same country. So I, was as soon as possible opportunity, I felt like the thing to do was to get out of the house. My husband, on the other hand, lived at home until he was 36 and married me. So he seems to have not been harmed by that experience, and in fact saved up a whole ton of money so that we could put a good down payment on a house. So I've sort of seen it both ways, and I think that there's it's everybody. I was happy with the way I did things. He was happy with the way he did things. So I don't think that there's like one right way, but for me. And my mom had done the same thing to her parents, so she could not complain too much. But right. I was gone. How about you, Catherine? Did you move out quickly?
Yeah, well, my parents actually moved cross country the summer that I graduated from high school. So I didn't even get a room in the new house, which I like to point out frequently.
Yes.
I like to make sure that everybody knew about that and how I slept on the floor in my sister's room for half a summer.
Oh, same. story like that.
So, I did come back for a few summers but I was pretty much gone, once I went to college. And when I finished college, I wanted to work in magazine publishing, which meant I had to live in New York City, which I was, a little bit apprehensive about.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing it and really liking it, and it worked out. So
that's a good time of your life to have that experience of living in New York City.
Yeah, except for when you're young, but when you also have no money at all.
Yeah, that's true.
When you're an editorial assistant at a magazine.
Oh my. Did you have roommates?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I had my very first year I actually didn't. But then all the rest of the time I did And
you had one of those really huge apartments like they have on Friends, right?
Oh yeah. I had a 5th floor walk up railroad apartment. With an air shaft. Like my bedroom was on an air shaft. So the pigeons, you would not believe how loud a pigeon could be when you're trying to sleep. Between the pigeons and the fact that somebody else who had a window on that air shaft had a really loud alarm clock and never turned it off. So
the joy.
Oh yes, communal living. So Nicole, did you also lose a bedroom in your parents' house? Was that what you were going to say?
Well,
did they kick you out?
Well, when I was 16, I actually left home for a year and did an exchange in Australia.
Oh, wow.
And while I was away, my parents moved across country.
Whoa.
So when I moved back, I had to start at a new high school for my senior year, which really kind of was not cool. But I had a bedroom then, and then I stayed home for 2 more years and went to community college. And then when I transferred to university in the city, which was a couple hours away, I think probably 5 minutes after I left, my mom was packing up my room.
Oh my gosh, you guys. My parents kept my room like a shrine. And they kept a room for my sister who never actually lived in that house, but in case she ever visited, they had a room for her.
No, my brother moved into my room and I got moved into the family room.
Oh, wow.
So when I came home in the summer, I had to sleep on the pull-out couch in the family room. So I guess I'm lucky because I had a bed. But
I did eventually get a bed in my parents' house. They put on an addition, and then that freed up a room to become a guest room. So then I would be allowed to stay there.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's because our house was like a 5-bedroom house for 3 people. They could afford to just, have
an extra room.
You have a room for you, or a room for you. Anybody passing by, you want a room? We got a room.
So, I mean, I guess we've had our own experiences, and how does that translate into what you want for your kids then? I mean, Terry, you've got 2 older kids.
Yeah.
What's your
I have an ongoing feud with my sister-in-law over this because she is very much of the feeling that kids should move out and is constantly encouraging my kids to do that. And I'm like, with what job that you can get today should these 20-somethings go rent an apartment? Are you kidding me? It's not practical. And I don't think either of them is particularly eager to move out. I'm not eager for them to move out. I guess I'm having a situation that my mother would have liked to have and I wanted no part of, which is for the kids to just live at home. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be, I don't feel it's that important. If they wanted to, I would support it. If they don't, I'm very happy to have them home. And really economically, I just don't see how that could happen. You know, mm-hmm. I think that sometimes people subsidize it, but I don't think it's that important to want to, pay somebody's rent so they can move out of the house. Stay here and donate to the utilities. But so we do have an apartment downstairs. It was a mother-in-law apartment, and it could quite easily be an adult-child apartment if they ever wanted a little bit of independence. But so far, we're all just 4 happy adults under one roof most of the time, unless mom's stressed, which is all of the time. Catherine, are you planning what you're going to do with your kids' bedrooms when they when we move out?
Well, I admit to kind of dreaming about that empty nest situation, but mostly because of all the driving I do right now and stuff like hounding people to eat breakfast so they aren't obnoxious. Like it, the whole, well, if they don't feed themselves, natural consequences. Well, the consequence is that I have to live with them being horrible, so I don't like that consequence. So, that kind of stuff I'm not going to miss, but I think I'll miss the kids when they go. I think I would like them to have a college experience that would include some kind of campus living, but if they come back after that, or if they, I don't know, summers and all those things, I think I would be fine with it. I think I would probably enjoy it as long as they make their own breakfast.
If they move away, do you have to go to their houses and do their laundry and order their dishwashers, or will you be able to let go?
I'm going to let that go. It's going to be gone. Only my husband will suffer from.
First time you go to visit, it'll be so hard.
Yeah.
You're not washing those things together, are you?
I have to admit, I mean, initially I was very sad when my son moved out, which was over a year ago now. But we had a brief moment in time recently where, he was not wanting to be in the fraternity house, and then he wanted to move out. This was before he and his girlfriend found an apartment, and he talked about coming to live back home. And my husband and I were kind of a bit,
Like while you got used to.
Yeah, we've gotten used to myself, my husband, and my daughter. And so, and my son, I love him to bits, but, he will also bring with him his 4 guitars and his constant stream of friends come through the house. And, it's just this whole other lifestyle we have to adapt to. So not that I didn't want him home, and I will not say that on podcast, but it would have been an adjustment.
Yes.
To have him back here.
So you're really hoping this relationship lasts, in other words.
Yeah. He's a very adventurous soul, so I don't imagine he'd want to come back home anyway.
So now how about your daughter? Are you feeling quite so optimistic about her heading out, or a little more protective?
No, I'm good. I really want her to have that college life experience, and she's more independent than my son, I would say. So I would encourage her to move if she wants to. If she wants to stay at home, that's fine too. But I want her to at least have a few years living on campus, not the whole time living at home. I want her to have that transition period of, being on campus and then being on her own eventually. So, but we'll see how it works out. I don't know. Being in Southern California, we have so many universities and colleges within minutes. So it's hard to justify moving them out when they can drive.
That's true. That's true. I mean, my kids went to community college, so there was never any question of leaving. But I don't know, do kids mostly go away to college still now? I know they did when I was growing up.
Yeah, they do. It's actually, I don't know, and this is a whole other conversation for later, but the debt that kids go into just to move away, incredible. And that's the
thing that sticks in my head. Yeah.
Like I want her to move out, but I don't want it to be for $45,000 a year.
Right. Right. And when I think of, how much, I really wanted to move out and I wouldn't have done it any other way. But when I think about how much money I spent in rent and, furniture and travel expenses to different places that I was living, and whereas my husband just sat home and put his paycheck in the bank, I am not sure that it was really the wisest thing, you know?
Right.
My parents really wanted me to live at home and save money, and I didn't care at that time. When I was in my 20s, I did not care. In my 30s, I cared retroactively.
Yeah.
Well, and when I first started living and working in New York, I was the only one of my peers at my job who didn't live at home or with their family, some family member, because it was just too expensive.
Yeah.
And that's why I lived on all the free food and other giveaways and PR products that we got at work. And I babysat. I babysat, 2 or 3 times a week too.
Wow.
And that was how I got all my spending money, just to pay for my Subway and my food and stuff. So, I think, and I feel like that's how it's going to be for young adults now, and
really is.
Our kids. If a family can't make it without 2 incomes, then how can a young person who's just starting out in an entry-level job?
Yes, even if you have a degree for your profession and so you can get a higher level of job, it still pays crummy. And, you have to work your way up to something that's going to pay well. I don't know how. That's why, thinking of the wider topic of, is there a particular time that kids need to leave home? I feel like it's unique to the kid. If you really want to, then you need to make that happen for them. But if they don't, I don't think you as a parent need to feel, if I am not kicking my kid out, I'm pampering them and I'm helicoptering them and it's a terrible thing. Little bird, go, you need to fly. I don't think there needs to be an artificial point for that, just because if nothing else, it's so hard to get along today.
Right.
And that's the thing. These kids are taking on huge amounts of debt with student loans, paybacks of $900, $1,000 a month.
Yes.
So I think going back to, do I want my kids to move out? Yeah, if it makes sense financially. I don't want them to take on that huge burden if they can live at home. I don't want them to take on the big financial burden if they can live here with us.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like with kids with special needs, a completely different situation than, I spent a lot in college. But with kids with special needs, I feel sometimes that the drive to get them living away from home is kind of like, well, there's not that much more other adult stuff they're going to be able to do. So darn it, we're going to get them out of their house and into a supported living situation somewhere. And I would rather have them living at home and finding a job and working whatever job they can find. I don't feel like that's the pinnacle of my ambition for them, is to get out of the house. I get really frustrated by that, because at some point in high school, a lot of the times the planning turns towards, well, let's make sure you can keep make your bed. So I'm very frustrated by that. And so I also don't buy into it from that point of view, that I have to, as a sign of independence for my kids with disabilities, they have to be able to live alone. They really don't. It's like, if my husband, who did not have any disabilities, could live home till he was 36, I don't see why his kids can't also. So,
right. Yeah, it's like you said, it's for different kinds of kids and different types of kids and different families. It really is whatever works. But
there are still people, my sister-in-law, who feel who I hope does not listen to this podcast. I won't pull quote that out. But even if she does, I think we've had conversations about it. I don't think you can set that as the bar for adulthood for anybody, at least right now.
Right.
No, because like you said, it's not about helicoptering and wanting them under your roof. It's practicality. Whether it's for kids with special needs who would need to be in a supported environment anyway.
Yeah.
Or if it's kids who just can't afford it, it's not about trying to keep them under your wing.
Yeah. No, if they have a job, make them pay for their phone, make them pay, chip in for utilities, charge them rent if you want to, something very low, make them pay for the cable for their room. All that stuff is fine. Give them responsibilities. It's not like they're going to be loafing in the basement playing video games necessarily. But if they don't have a job, it's nice for them not to have expenses also.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And they can do their part around the house. And
yes.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they do it right.
That's true. Within reason, they can do this. They can learn how to do things right.
Oh, that's just
not
being obnoxious.
Your rent is to learn how to do it exactly like I like it and do it. They will all move out.
That's how you do it if you want them to go.